Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Mark, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my approach to color correcting with curves inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. Roll that intro. Alright, to start things off, we need a clip to work with. So I'm just going to grab one from the media bin here and drop it onto the timeline. Under Effects, I'm going to search for the Lumetri color panel and apply this to the clip. This should automatically bring up the Effects Controls panel now, but if it doesn't, you can access this panel by going into Window, Effects Controls, and that should have it pop open on your screen somewhere. You can reposition it as needed. So once we're in this panel, we're going to just make sure that we're able to see the expanded view of the Lumetri color effect by hitting this little drop-down triangle to the left of the name. Once we're inside of here, let's navigate down to Curves and expand that open. At this point, I'm going to add a bunch of control points to my Luma control. That's the first one that's open by default. I'm just going to add a control point at every point where a intersection happens on the grid with the main line that's passing through in a diagonal direction. After I've done this, I'm just going to add one more point down at the shadows. Now this is going to be the bottom part of the graph on the bottom left. Before we go any farther, I think it's important to explain how this graph works. The easiest way to think of this graph is that the x-axis will be your selection. So this is a question of, do you want the darkest part of the image to be selected and adjusted, or do you want the brightest part of the image to be adjusted and selected? Now, the y-axis will be the output of that selection. So how dark or how bright you want that selection to be. This might sound complicated at first, but I promise, once you've tried a little bit of hands-on experimentation, you'll be able to work with it in no time and get fantastic looking images. Now this is where things become a little bit less sciencey and more creative, which I'm sure some of you will appreciate. We're just going to click and drag each of these points and play with each of them in turn, moving them up or down and seeing what the result is. Just work your way all the way from the bottom to the top until your image is starting to look more like what you want. Then just repeat the process by again going all the way to the bottom and fine-tuning that selection a little bit more. Because of the interlocking nature of these connection points, you'll see that once you make an adjustment to one place, it may alter your adjustment at another point on the graph. So it's important to make sure you're taking the time to go back and fine-tune each of these points. Now that we fine-tune our contrast using curves, let's deal with any color cast we may have. We're going to just repeat the same process with the red, blue, and green channels, all in turn, doing the same exact thing that we just did with our main Luma contrast adjustment. By having each of these tonal regions already pre-selected, it makes it a breeze to just go in, experiment with playing with the placement of these little dots, and just fine-tune each of these points until the image looks right. There is a more scientific way of doing this, which is to use the scopes that are built into Adobe Premiere Pro, but that's its own topic and we'll get into that in a later video. Alright, so now after we've worked our image a little bit, I think this looks a lot better than it did before. We've sort of transformed this image into one that was pretty flat and dull to one that's more vibrant and full of life. As a cherry on top, we can tweak the saturation settings just to bring a little bit more life into it. You may have to fine-tune your control points a little bit more on the curves, but it shouldn't make too big of a difference. And it can really make the difference between a great looking image and a fantastic looking image. All right, that's gonna do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.